York City. And I think that it's, I mentioned this, especially right now at this time in our country, for this reason. There's a bunch of Democrats. There's a bunch of people on the left that's going to vote for Donald Trump because they're scared to death of what's going to happen in this country. He doesn't get the right back. And in New York City in 1992, that's what people were afraid of. We had the highest crime rate, the highest murder rate in the country for any large city in the country. The highest. And ironically, if you're from New York City or you follow New York City, you know that New York City is in pretty bad shape today. But you'd be shocked to hear that in 1993, New York City was 5 times worse than it is today. So if you think it's bad today, when Rudy Giuliani came in 1993, it was 5 times. The murder rate was in the 2000s. It was like Baghdad every day. Giuliani came in, and he did something that the New York Times said couldn't be done. And he had justification for it. That listen, nobody wants to work, visit, live, go to school in a place where they're not safe. And he'd be right. They did it. They don't today, and that's why they're moving out. They're scared to death. Back then it was worse. He came into office, and over the next 8 years, violent crime dropped by 65%. The murder rate dropped by 7%. The murder rate in the Black community, where some of the violent crime was the highest, the murder rate there dropped by 75 to 80%. He did something in New York City that was never done in the history of the city, ever. And just when people thought that he couldn't do any more for this country, for the city, at 8:46 in the morning of September 11th, that changed. When the first plane landed in Tower 1, I was in my office and I called after I saw the game. He said, I'll move to the command center. He came downtown and he got downtown about 3 minutes after the second plane landed in the north side of Tower 2. And with all the crisis, with all the chaos, with all the destruction and devastation, people jumping from those 2 buildings, landing on vessels, landing in the courtyard between Towers 1 and 2, with all that going on, he gripped my arm and he said, this is something that's never happened. And I thought he meant that. I thought he meant the business of damage to the building. That's not what he meant. What he meant was, we're being attacked on U.S. soil. And think about it. Other than Pearl Harbor, nothing in the history of this country did happen. And Rudy Giuliani went way to work. And there's 1,000 stories that come to mind, but there is one story, we were walking down West Street. We were trying to find a place to put him in a command structure. Couldn't go back to City Hall, couldn't go to police headquarters, couldn't go to the emergency command center, couldn't do none of that, because the building was sort of imploded from the devastation that had struck. We were walking down the street and we said, get your press tool. Get as many cameras, as many people from the press, get them to come up on me right now. I gotta talk. And I remember thinking to myself, what is he doing this? What's he gonna do out in the middle of the street? And he did, just as he got all the people around, just as everybody got around and surrounded, all the cameras. He started telling the people of New York City, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. It's bad. We've been attacked. It's bad. It's serious. But we're going to be okay. And here's what I want you to do. He started laying out things that he wanted people to do. And he walked away and he took off. I got him into the police academy later, and this is a little bit. Later on, I remember thinking, after reading the reports, watching this, having people come to me and talk. You know, Rudy Giuliani did who managed to press. He made New Yorkers and police. He made everybody understand you're going to be okay. You're safe. You're safe now. It's going to be okay. But don't count. Don't be afraid. We can't give up to terrorism. And that message resonated all the way across the United States because the president was being moved. We didn't have a president for the first several hours because he was being moved for his own personal safety and the safety of the country. So Rudy Giuliani was the only messenger we had at the time, and he knew exactly what to do, how to do it, and he put the message out there that we're going to get through this. Reduce violent crime and murder. His armed crew died. Change the dynamic of New York City. Let New York City for one of the most successful terror attacks in the world is almost with peace. Here's a well, this is wrong. Became a target of the radical left. What did Giuliani do? He went to bat for President Trump. He defended him. He defended him in the impeachments, he defended him in the investigation. And that was false. They couldn't take another President Trump. President Trump, his family, his friends, his colleagues, his supporters, his donors, and ironically, you know, when you think of the U.S. Constitution, when you think of the Constitution, there's a few amendments to the Constitution. You think there's throwing a flag? Well, that one amendment that says we have a right to counsel. There's this turning on of food, and things like that. There's a letter that we told you. They don't care. Because what they do, they went after the Cross's terrorists. And who did they go after? Artists. They went after the one artist that they knew the most motivating. For them. They went after there. Completely uncold. Indicting him in states, forced defamation lawsuits and other frivolous nonsense lawsuits on disrupting his business, causing him millions upon millions in attorney fees. And guess what? He's going to come up here and he's going to tell you that you have to do exactly what Donald Trump said on 13. Because this one forward. You got to find it. And it's all about the talk to this country. More than you to around, whether it was in New York City, whether it was 9/11, whether it was fighting for the president of the United States, there is no stronger defender of the United States Constitution than America's mayor and the greatest senator that ever stood in the city of New York and this country, Rudy Giuliani. And Bernie. Thank you.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today.
Right.
I want to be.
Yankees haven't won yet. I think it's 0-0, so. First of all, thank you very much. Bernie Kerik is one of the reasons I'm here. He helped to save my life on 9/11. So I couldn't think of a more appropriate person. To lead Bernie, and everything he said about me is certainly true for him every day. And particularly since the shocking result of the 2020 election, Bernie hasn't given up at all. I mean, he was there with me during the election battle. He doesn't get intimidated by any of the fascist tactics of the Biden-Harris regime and the New York Times and CBS and all of those people. They try to beat you down because they're trying to destroy your country. They want to turn you into a country that'll fit very nicely into one world. Now, no one really pointed this, but about a week ago, the UN passed a resolution that would create more power for the Secretary General. There were an emergency. He could sort of take over America. What do you think Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, or John Adams, or George Washington would think of some idiot Secretary General who was some kind of a communist would take over America, take over America? What are we fighting a revolution for? To have some jackass from Europe take over America? I didn't remember this Europe. I'm going to be here we're doing pretty well. All of them ahead, gone. They don't have an economy. They ruined Western civilization. We don't have any model in Europe. Maybe East Europe, some of those countries that freed themselves from communism, Poland and Latvia and Lithuania and the Czech Republic, or Trump's favorite one, Hungary. But France. My name is Monsieur Macron. When my wife told me that no one should be allowed to pay Jerusalem, he did it. Maybe that has its nation. They use the word Jerusalem because it's a disputed capital. So is Ukraine. Russia. So it's the United States, the King of England is beauty. I mean, that's ridiculous. Jerusalem has only been the center of the Jewish religion for 2,000 years. King David captured it. I'm going to sit down because we're going to be, we're going to have to bring that over too. We're going to be on television. We're going to be on X, and we're going to be on Rumble. X, Elon Musk, the savior of free speech. Our new. Mayor. Over here. Try that one. You pull that. How's that? All right. So now we'll be doing both, and then they'll get me a little handle for this. But you think about it.
our You sure this is not a weapon? Fight! I'm just gonna hold it and we'll figure out when we take a break what to do with it. But I can hold it like this. That's okay. I'm not Joe Biden. Or Vice President Harris, what are you going to do on the first day you're in office? I am going to, well, you know, I come from the middle class. And my mother taught me that I can't actually remember what she taught me, but I have aspirations. And when I become president, when I first day I become president, I will have aspirations for the middle class. She actually said that. So basically, she's going to go in the White House, and on the first day, she's going to aspirate. Do you know what that is? I don't know what that is. I mean, this is like if it weren't for the fact that they take away all our rights, right of free speech, freedom of religion, gosh almighty, you can't be safe in your house anymore. One morning, a couple of years ago, I'm sleeping at 5 o'clock in the morning. FBI. I thought they were there for me to prosecute a case. I only did 100 with them. 2 years earlier, I was the FBI Man of the Year. They said I prosecuted the most consequential cases of the 20th century. And now they wanted to search my apartment. They did. They wanted all my electronics. So this was right after the pandemic, and I was using my apartment as a radio and television studio. I was broadcasting from there, and I had other people broadcasting from there. So I had other people's electronic computers and phones and stuff. And I kept trying to tell them, this is this so-and-so, and this is so-and-so, and this is me, and this is so-and-so. So they lined them all up so I could identify them. I went through about 20 and I got to the last two. And I said, the last two are the only two you really should take, is the only ones that are incriminated. So they're thinking he's given up incriminating evidence. I said, but you can decide if you want both or one. One of them is Hunter Biden's hard drive. With the child pornography. And the other one is one that I edited because I didn't think it was appropriate to give out one that was as disgusting as the perverted president thinks. So you can have either one of those. They had only had it like for 2 years and done nothing with it. And I got to tell you, I have a book coming out called The Biden Crime Family. And you're going to be very surprised that hard drive contains much more evidence than you've been told about. Do you know there's a direct statement, which as a lawyer, I would call an admission, which is allowed into evidence as an exception to the hearsay rule. It's when you admit a crime. And he admitted it to his daughter. So it wasn't under coercion. It wasn't the police having him somewhere or somebody offering him something. So it has sort of like an indicia of credibility that some other statements don't have. And it's considered in the law a very, very powerful statement. Judges even charge juries that you can give more weight to this than you can, let's say, to even a confession. Because you're doing it like on your own time, under no pressure. Here's what he said to his daughter. This is Christmas Day 2018. He puts in an email. You know, you're going to be taking over some of these things for the family. That means being a bag man. But they've never respected me. Maybe they'll respect you more. And I've had to pay all of the expenses for our family. And Pop still requires me for 30 years to give him half my salary. Now, there also is in the hard drive all kinds of evidence of him paying for things that you would never think of. For example, he bought the homes for his parents. He paid for his half-sister's college and graduate tuition. He paid for storm windows. The guy who was the intermediary would send him little notes and say, "Hey, where's the $1,000 for the storm windows?" I mean, they were, and now, of course, it makes sense, doesn't it? Everything he ever got money for, whether it's the $21.5 million from Red China or the $8 million from the most crooked oligarch in Russia, or 3.5 million for the most crooked woman in Russia. The other was at Ukraine, or 2 million, not a big one, from Romania, or the land deal that his brother got into in Iraq when he blew the status of forces agreement. None of that money was for any service. His son couldn't do anything but take drugs and go with prostitutes. His whole life is taking drugs and going with prostitutes. He's a complete pervert. He actually admitted that he's a danger to his underage niece and nephew. And Joe's reaction to that was to ignore it. Just like he's never met his granddaughter. That's a pretty bad guy. What's all this stuff about he's a nice guy? I'm sorry. I mean, I knew mafia guys. Yeah, the Gambinos worry about their kids. I don't think Carlo, who's a little older than me, he was in jail when I was putting his son in jail. So he probably never liked me very much. But Carlo actually tried hard to have his kids go straight. He put him in the fashion business. Well, he didn't quite put him in it. He told the guys that owned the fashion business if they didn't put him in, he'd break their legs. But he wanted them to go straight. And you know what? They turned down taking over the family. And that's how Gotti got it. They stayed out because the father wanted them to have a better life than he had, even though he was a terrible murderer. Joe doesn't even have that. He's been a crook for 35 years. He started off as a little scummy senator taking pennies, shaking people down with his two brothers. Turns out to be a world-class shakedown artist. So this is what we face now. We got to change that. 4 years ago, or even 8 years ago, right, when Donald Trump ran, I worked very, very hard for him. He was my friend then for about 30 years. And I felt very strongly that Hillary Clinton shouldn't be president. And I was more confident than most people that Donald Trump would be a good president, and that a lot of the attacks on him are sick. They're really sick. He's not a perfect man. Neither am I. There's only one of those. That was Jesus Christ. And but he's better than most. He's a hell of a lot better than Joe Biden. Jesus, he would never ignore his granddaughter. He's got a wonderful family. He loves them. He's dedicated to them. It's quite extraordinary that they all turned out so well for a guy with the notoriety that he's had, and frankly, the problems in his marriage and all of that. It's a credit to him and to his wives how the children turned out. Right? I mean, they could be like it would almost stand to reason that at least one of them would be, but because he loves his family, because he's a good man. Sure, he says things in a way that some people don't like. I love it because I have a sense of humor and I come from Brooklyn. I consider him kind of mild. You should have heard my father. Man, and my uncles. Wow. But in 16, we were fighting to stop them from making this country a socialist country. So, what do I mean by a socialist country? Where more people are dependent than are contributing. We're more of a socialist country now than a lot of socialist countries. Well, we won. We had 4 great years. The pandemic certainly wasn't caused by Donald Trump. It was caused by Red China. And when he cut off the people from Red China coming here, he was condemned by Biden and Hillary and all of those people who honestly are working for Red China for being a xenophobe. Now, I had to look that up. But then I thought, well, the people who name Lyme disease must be xenophobe too, because it comes from Lyme, Connecticut. What a terrible thing to call it Lyme disease or West Nile virus attacking the Egyptian people. It was quite common for us to name viruses from the place they came from. Now, tough luck, Joe. It may be your real country, Red China, but they're the ones who killed millions of us with that disease. Did they do it on purpose? Could be. Did they do it on purpose in the sense that it was a leak and they took advantage of it because they knew they were going to lose a lot of people and they wanted to make sure everybody else did? At one point, Fauci actually said this. The minute he said it, I knew that he was a miserable, excuse the language, little shit. He said, well, the Chinese wouldn't do that. It would kill their own people. There is probably no nation in the history of the world that's killed more of its own people than the Red Chinese. How about 100 million? They've been doing it for the last 120 years. They don't only just kill the Uyghurs and the Christians, they kill the Chinese people. If you walked into Xi Jinping's office and said 1 million Chinese just died, he'd say, oh, thank God. So the idea that this guy would say that told me everything I needed to know. He's an operative of the Red Chinese government. He's one of these people who the Chinese have been training for the last 30 to 40 to 50 years to spout Chinese propaganda, to brainwash us, like a large number of the people who belong to the Communist Teachers Union. Sorry, they were founded, the Teachers Union was founded by communists. And Randy Weingarten, who I negotiated with for 4 years, 5 years, is a straight out and out communist who doesn't give a damn about children, doesn't even give a damn about teachers. She gives a damn about furthering the destruction and making American children the property of the state. That's exactly what that guy running for governor of Virginia said that really began this battle when he said that parents should have nothing to say about the education of their children. What? You know where that comes from? That comes right out of Karl Marx. It comes right out of Hitler, Stalin. Get the kids at 2, turn them against their parents, and you'll own them. Oh, by the way, and get rid of God. Because those 2 things can stop you from being loyal to these materialistic, atheistic murderers. And it's their 2 biggest, it's their 2 biggest priorities: God, parents, parents, God. Take a look at the Democrat Party. Look what they've done with God. Look what they're doing with parents. So you can go to Minnesota right now, based on a law passed by Tampon Tim, and a 14-year-old boy can have himself mutilated. And if the parents come into court, they don't have standing. If a doctor says he should be mutilated. Tampon Tim, when I come back, I will point out to you, is either an operative of the Red Chinese government or he's pretending to be. So we'll be right back.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
You're welcome. And we're back. We're just in time. We're back.
We're back. So we're going to explain in a little while how you can get them, but I intend in the next couple of days to wear them and not even tell Trump that I have them and see if he notices them. You know, now 20% of the proceeds from this go to a Samaritan's Purse. And I think the price is at $98 for the $92 for the right shoe.
Left shoe's free.
And the left shoe is nothing because they don't pay. So here's what really troubles me, because we're getting close now to the election. So right at the very beginning, when they first announced Tampon Tim, it just kind of struck me as really odd that they pick a guy that would put tampons in a boy's room. I mean, I can't figure out, does he think like the boys are going to ingratiate themselves with the girls by giving them I mean, why would he put tampons in the boys' room? So that began, I remembered that he passed a law 2 years ago about abortion. And the law removed the protection for babies that are born in spite of the abortion. The law in Minnesota, which was written in 2014, said that if a baby was born in spite of your best efforts to abort it, the baby had to be kept alive with all reasonable measures. So when he took over the legislature with his crazy, insane left-wing communists, including that moron who came in married to her brother, and
Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan Omar. She's one of his favorites. And she's constantly attacking Israel, constantly attacking Jews, constantly attacking Christians.
Ilhan Omar, of course, is who he's referring to.
She's a hateful witch. But there are, apparently must be a whole bunch of them there, because they passed this law, and it did exactly what J.D. Vance explained in the debate when he was fact-checked incorrectly. The law says that you no longer have to provide extraordinary care to keep the baby alive. It just says all you have to do is keep the baby comfortable. Comfortable is defined as stick them on a slab. And then the law has no restrictions on abortion. Only 7 states have no restrictions, which means that 7, 8, and 9 months, whether it's life of the mother, doesn't matter. Whether you don't have to have a reason, you can just kill the baby. Well, that baby is a human being. What you do is you suck it out of the womb with a vacuum cleaner. And if that doesn't work, you crush its skull. Now, if it lives, you're supposed to try to keep it alive, because once it gets out of the womb and it's alive, no matter what you believe about abortion, once it's out of the womb, it's a human being. Now, he passed this law, and in the first couple of months, they had to report 5 babies that died that way. And then they stopped reporting, and he refuses to report. And of course, the Biden-Harris administration doesn't care, because they don't give a damn how many babies he kills. In New York, the tragedy is that more Black babies are aborted than born, including not just Harlem, but the whole city. So I think there has to be reasonable terms for abortion. I don't think it can be prohibited completely, even though I'm a Catholic, and I would like, personally, I'm against it. Have always been criticized for being personally against it, but willing to compromise, because I believe there are people who are just as good or better than me who have a different view. But then that view stops when the fetus becomes a baby. Like it was always my view: you killed a woman 6, 7 months pregnant, it was double homicide. That means it's a human being. So the extremists here are not the Republicans. Trump's position is quite sensible and moderate. Their position is frightening. Their position is trying to limit our population, which, by the way, is something that Gates wants to do. It's something that Obama wants to do. It's something that Klaus Schwab wants to do. I wonder why Klaus Schwab wants to limit the population, like the Nazis, wanted to limit the population. Good old Klaus. So this election is about our fundamental rights. I mean, we have rights that are given to us, and you can believe they came from God or they came from nature, but they don't come from government. They belong to us because we're human beings. You don't have the right of free speech because even James Madison or Thomas Jefferson gave it to you. You have a right of free speech either because you got it from the supreme being, the way Jefferson said, or you have it because there's a certain amount of respect due to all human beings. And that's one of them: free speech, freedom of religion. I experienced with Donald Trump one of the most shattering things in my lifetime, which is when he was convicted on a less than unanimous verdict in a criminal case. I mean, serfs that lived in the England of Richard the Lionheart were convicted only on unanimous verdicts. We've only been doing it for 800 years. But a crooked judge in Manhattan, which describes most of the judges in Manhattan, don't be shocked. It's been that way for 150 years since Boss Tweed. You actually think we have an honest judicial system in New York? The judges in the New York Supreme Court are appointed by the Democrat bosses of the 4 counties, take out Staten Island. So you take the judge like Engomoron, who presided over the case in which he said Mar-a-Lago was worth $18 million. I tried to get it for, I was going to offer, I have no money, but I could have gotten a good loan. $20 million I offered Trump. He'd have made $2 million. He looked at me like I was crazy. Engomoron has been elected now 3 times. So you'd say, well, that's really very democratic. He was elected. Except there's a little hitch here. He never had an opponent. Where do you get elected without an opponent? Soviet Russia, right? China, Venezuela, Cuba. Yeah, no opponent. He was selected by the Manhattan County leader, who is the son of someone many of you, I hope, are old enough to remember. Let Him Loose Bruce, who was Ed Koch's nemesis. Let Him Loose Bruce was an early version of Bragg. He liked to release criminals so they could beat the hell out of you, kill you, and rape you. And Koch used to go nuts. Constantly, he would do it, and Koch would hold a press conference and show how dangerous the guy was and let him loose Bruce. Well, the head of the Democratic Party in Manhattan is his son, who, of course, doesn't do anything about Bragg, because Bragg is sort of a perfect recreation of Let Him Loose Bruce. There are somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000 people walking the streets of New York City that, if I were mayor or Bloomberg, would be in jail. They'd all been let out from the time that Cuomo signed the bail bill and the discovery bill. And even though he likes to hide from it, and that guy wants to be mayor. His law is the reason for so much of the crime in New York. Also, I will recommend, should he get elected, that all old people leave New York, because he doesn't like us. I mean, he's probably going to put me in a hospital somewhere where there's a contagious disease. Why? Everybody wonders why, and this is why the press is so distorted and we don't have a free press. There's a reason that Andrew did that. There's a reason that he stuffed all the people with COVID in nursing homes, because his biggest contributor are nursing homes. And they were losing out. They were losing out on the money that the hospitals were getting. If the people died of COVID, they would get more money. So they were complaining. And he and Murphy in New Jersey, who did exactly the same thing, and his Governor Whitlis, that's the one who gave out communion the other day. She's a communion giver. What the hell was that about? What was that about? So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and you're going to ask me questions. And I'm not going to answer them, because I'm going to be like Kamala Harris.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
Does the judge have a home run yet?
It was 1 zip. They just will go back to him.
Ah. Okay.
147 and
Okay.
Florida. The largest group of bumpers supporting patriots in America. We're back on the air, Mayor.
Am I on?
Starting with the first.
So the first question was that
Welcome back. So what's
a
the
man
first
from
question?
Cleveland was very upset that the Yankees are ahead 3-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're back. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live Q&A. Hey!
Question.
Yeah.
You were putting in one of the greatest things of the 80s, the Regal War.
Yeah.
You kind of, what can we implement the Regal War for all these Venezuelan gangs that are coming around?
Oh,
We should.
Question.
Yeah.
Hey,
I should. We should use the RICO law against, like, the most recent gang is Tron de Aragua, TDA. It's a Venezuelan prison gang that has grown, I would say, faster than any organized crime group I've ever seen, whether mafia or Chinese or Russian or even MS-13. Within 3 years, they have become a massive crime group in America, particularly in New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Los Angeles. And then what they do is they take over small towns near the bigger city so they can hide people, so that they can have places where they can terrorize and dominate the whole town. That's the situation in Aurora, Colorado. Okay. And they actually control about 9 cities in Colorado. Now, people claim that Trump is sort of making this up. That's ridiculous. The 9 counties are suing the governor because they want the governor to end the sanctuary city policy. So these people are only here because of sanctuary city. They come to go to Denver, but then they move out into these smaller cities that don't want sanctuary city and terrorize them. Now, sanctuary city is completely illegal. I don't even understand how the New York Police Department goes along with it. You arrest the guy who, let's say, commits rape. He's an illegal migrant. I actually believe that normally you shouldn't just deport him. You should have him serve his sentence. Because if you deport him, given the way it operates, he'll come right back. So let him serve his 5 years or 10 years. Or you want to execute him, execute him. But when we're finished with him, let's throw him out of the country. That's what I used to do. They don't report these people any longer to the immigration service. Like the guy who raped and killed Laken Riley, whose name Biden couldn't pronounce. He was let free by 2 different New York judges. And New York City didn't report him to immigration. He went off to Athens, Georgia, and killed this beautiful young lady.
Good answer. Good answer. Over here.
Great question, Kitty.
The which?
The no Prince Gerald reform bill that are destroying our city. I'm really trying to get rid of that.
Get rid of the Democrats.
No cash bail.
Yeah,
no cash bail.
Yeah, of course.
No cash bail.
The only thing stopping it is the Democrat Party, the party that caters to criminals. It was passed by Cuomo in a Democratic legislature. I think every Republican voted against it. If they didn't, we should throw them out of the party. Actually, Hochul has attempted to revise it, and she was beaten down by the majority leader and the speaker, who really have more power than she does. This is a pure Democrat. It's an invention of George Soros, actually, because he's been doing it he's been having district attorneys elected for about 7 years. He's elected over 50 district attorneys. So he goes into a district attorney's races. I don't know. If you spent $1 million on them, it was a lot. So he'll put $5 million in, and he'll overwhelm the qualified candidate with a person who's really a left-wing criminal wingnut. You know, somebody who thinks criminals are treated poorly and should be out on the street. And he's done that now in so many cities that they're the ones who favor things like no bail, just let them out, put them back out on the street. So you have to change political parties if you want to. You can't do what Chicago did. You get, 10 people murdered every weekend and 40 people shot, and you elect the most radical guy of all the Democrats, all of whom are horrible. They pick the worst one. I mean, the guy's completely crazy.
Sure, right over here. Yeah.
Before I ask all the communities that I can, please, thank you very much. Your name, sir. George Lombardi. George, quick question, very quick. Today is Columbus Day, so happy Columbus Day. The question is, you met the Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Italy, and today being Columbus Day, if you have a message for the Italian American community, and especially the world Italy that seems to be doing a pretty good job, especially considering the others, Mr. Macron.
Yeah, I feel the same way about taking down Columbus's statue as I do all these statues. Now, you want to start taking down statues of people who kill people, we start with Muhammad. Muhammad was a mass murderer of Jewish people and Christians. So you want before you touch Columbus, who maybe or maybe not killed people. I don't know. Let's start with a real killer, Muhammad. Let's see how you like that. Or we could go on. What about George Floyd? Oh, okay. You don't like the way he was killed. He died of natural causes, by the way. What? Of an overdose of drugs. But even if you don't think he did, the guy was a major woman beater, and there's a statue to him. I don't know. I think George Washington, whatever he did, couldn't be as bad as George Floyd or Jefferson. So how about we should fight back more instead of putting our heads down? They took down Theodore Roosevelt's statue from in front of the Museum of Natural History. Theodore Roosevelt was an abolitionist. And they took him down because he had a Native American and a black kid next to his horse, and they looked subservient. How can you tell with a statue if they look subservient? But the guy was a champion of ending slavery. I would also like to say that if you're going to condemn white men for slavery, then you have to also praise white men, because over 300,000 of them died to free slaves. And they're sitting in cemeteries all over the country. And if you want to find out, even though we had a presidential candidate who couldn't figure out what the Civil War was about, all you have to do is look at the Declaration of Secession from South Carolina. Number one, slavery. Well, 300,000 white men died to free the slaves. I don't think there's any country in the world where people died to free slaves. So we may be bad, but we're also exceptionally good.
Mr. Livingston, final question, please.
And you, Mr. Mayor, for everything.
You're absolutely beautiful. Uh-oh.
Mayor, where is Andrew? He did such a fabulous job during the 4 years, those 4 periods in New York. I thought he would have had his own show, and where is it?
Oh, Andrew is
Thank you.
he has his own podcast. He's on radio and television. And Andrew, of course, if Donald Trump were here, he would say, because he's the best golf I had at my golf club. Number one, he actually won the Eisenhower tournament. Very few people win that. Now, Andrew's a great kid. He ran a great race for governor. He's got to decide what he wants to do, but he's a natural. He really is. And he's a wonderful, wonderful young man. So I'm going to conclude by telling you, people ask me all the time, what can we do? Well, there are a lot of things different people can do, have great talent, whatever. Here's one thing we can all do. Almost all of us, except people like Kamala Harris and Biden, have friends. Well, 90% of the staff left. She can't have too many friends, right? So most of us have friends. We have 10 friends, we have 20 friends, we have 30 friends. Get them to vote. Take responsibility for it. Take responsibility for it. Donald Trump pointed out the other day that only like 30% of the evangelicals vote, and they're 80% for him. We get 20% more of them to vote. I mean, North Carolina is finished. Georgia is finished. Pennsylvania is finished. Also, the idea that they cheat and therefore we're not going to vote is ridiculous. We can overcome their cheating. First of all, we're doing a lot more about it this time than we did last time. Second, they don't have the advantage of COVID this time, where they just ended up with about 1 million or 2 million more paper ballots than they'll have this time. And third, we weren't motivated. The motivation for their cheating should be, well, we shouldn't cheat, but we should get people out to vote. Take it as a personal responsibility to save your country, because that's what you're doing. We're not going to last. I'm telling you this from the bottom of my heart. We're not going to survive another left-wing. This is a real culmination of communism infiltrating our government, going way back to the Woodrow Wilson administration. And they've done it brilliantly. Why do you think these kids walk around? Man, it's protesting for a terrorist group. You've got to be sick. I mean, they're not, whether you agree with Israel or you don't agree with Israel, and I love Israel and agree with it completely. But how can you protest in favor of a maniacal, homicidal, insane terrorist group where the next word after death to Israel is death to America? We're protesting in favor of a group that wants to kill us. That only happens because of a seriously sick, distorted educational system that we allowed to happen under our feet. And the reason I am so intense on Tampon Tim is he's just one singular example of that. He was brought to China 30 years ago in a Harvard program, and he was trained to be a red Chinese indoctrinator. You don't bring kids to China 30, 40 at a time. China pays for it, and it isn't indoctrination. China doesn't waste money. They didn't spend the $21 million on Biden for nothing. They got the Bagram Air Base, 400 miles from China. So this is life and death for our democracy. So take it as a personal responsibility. God bless you. And God bless America.
Mayor, they want you to go up there for a minute. You want, Mayor, they want you to stand up for a second.
Oh, yeah.
They want you to stand up for just 1 second, if you can, with Larry. Carl. Marty, what did I do? I remember the three you tried. Remember? No, not right now. Yeah. Let's move on. I can't get back. Don't worry. Got the read. Yeah. Yeah. What's wrong? That's it. I think that get on. 20. No, I'm gonna stay live. I want to stay live. Yeah. Yeah, have him, shoot a little. Yeah, we're not going on, right? Thank you. Thank you. That's your uncle. Hi, yeah. We're still on the air, so. Guy Molinari, his nephew is here. That's his nephew. That's Guy Molinari. And that's his nephew. I'm working.
As you guys know, holding is exactly together. So help please, holding and exactly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I will. Well, thank you. Yeah, people that and I don't know. Some I guess you want to hand it to them. Didn't put it with that. I don't want that. I don't know. Present to them. All right. Go quietly off stage, yeah. Yeah, if you're making a living, say that you live in there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say hi. Hey, no, wait, get our stuff. Yeah, please. God bless. Folks. Oh, please make this stay. Why me that? Oh, wait here. Oh.
Right now, thank you.
Yeah.
See ya. Oh, you want to bring it up? Yeah, usually after party.